Hello everyone, ازيكم ولاد عاملين ايه؟ النهارده we're going to discuss a very
interesting topic لطيف خفيف اسمه limits of accuracy, or we can call it برضو the bounds. تمام؟ فالنهارده our topic is called limits of accuracy or bounds. It's a nice topic, not that bad, not that long. It should be nice يعني وإن شاء الله مش هتزهقوا ولا هتسرحوا ولا هتمسكوا الموبايلات ولا أي حاجة. But before we start this topic and before we get into the most important information about this topic over here, I need to remind you about something that you took long ago, the difference between the place value and the value. محتاجة إن أنا أفكركم بحاجة كنتوا أخدتوها أيام ابتدائي اللي هي place value والvalue. فمثلا if I write for example a number like this on the board وجيت سألتكم سؤال البليس فاليو والفاليو اللي هم كانوا التنز والهندردز والثاوزندز and so on هم دول. بس I wanted to know the difference between place value and value. If I discuss this digit over here which is the 3 and I ask you what is the place value of the 3, place value معناها ايه مكانها في الرقم، هل هي hundreds ولا tens ولا thousands ولا ايه. So the place value of the 3 is the thousands, while if I ask you what is the value of the 3 ايه هي ال value of the 3، ال value بقى رقم. أنا دلوقتي if I want to read this number over here, this number will be read as 3,462. So since we are discussing the 3, the place value of the 3 is thousands. وقلنا the place value is a word that describes مكان ال 3 while the value is a number. ايه الفاليو بقى بتاعت ال 3 دي؟ 3000. Let's take مثلا this number over here which is the 4 and then I ask you the same two questions. What is the place value of the 4? The place value of the 4 is hundreds. وقلنا place value دي معناها الرقم ده مكانه فين في the whole thing. الديجيت دي مكانها فين في الرقم. الفاليو is هي كرقم. لو أنا عايزة أحول الفور دي رقم هتبقى إيه؟ هتبقى 400. And this is the difference between place value and value. So again, for example, the 6 is the tens, while the place value is 60. 2 units and the place value is 2. 1 is the 10, or in other words, 1 decimal place and the place value is 0.1. This 3 over here could be said that the 3 is the second decimal place, or I can simply call it the hundredth, and the value of the 3 is 0.03. So what is the objective from this slide? The objective from this slide is just to know the difference between the place value and the value, the difference between place value and value. The second thing that I want you to remember before we get into the topic is how would you know where is the first significant figure in a number. So let me give you examples like these. لو أنا كتبت مثلا هنا on the board 72.3 ولا كتبتها مثلا كتبتها 0.72 أو كتبتها 0.0072 وجيت قلت لكم where is the first significant figure in any of these numbers. دايما to determine the first significant figure I always look from the left. هي الفكرة كلها دلوقتي من الصفحة دي إن أنا عايزاكم تعرفوا إزاي نحدد فين مكان ال first significant figure، لأن الحتة دي هتفرق معانا ممكن في الدرس ده. علشان أحدد فين مكان or where is the first significant figure I always look from the left. I look from the left. دايما ببص من الشمال. لو في decimal point I ignore it. If there is a decimal point I simply ignore it. أول رقم مش zero ده the first significant figure. The first number that is not the zero is the first significant figure. So here for instance the 7 is the first significant figure. هنا from the left the first number that is not a zero is the first significant figure. هنا مثلا this is the first significant figure. أول رقم من الشمال مش zero. لو انتوا واخدين بالكم بقى ال first significant figure هنا is the tens. The first significant figure هنا is the first decimal place. The first significant figure هنا is the third decimal place. فال place value بتاعة ال first significant figure بتعتمد هو مكانه فين في الرقم. ودي تاني حاجة محتاجة إن أنتوا تعرفوها. How would you determine the position of the first significant figure؟ دلوقتي بقى I want you to go to the notes and I want you to go to this page over here, page number 40. If you wish to draw this table, okay. If not, then you don't have to. This table هنكتب فيها the place value and the value اللي هم الأوريجينالز بقى اللي هم التنز والهندرeds والthousands. So let's start مثلا by the place value which is the thousands that starts with that ends with an S. The value of the thousands is 1000. وبعد الthousands في عندنا hundreds that ends with an S. The value of the hundreds is 100. فنفرق ما بين place value و value. تمام؟ place value كلمة value رقم. وبعد كده عندنا tens which is translated into 10 and of course the units which is translated into 1. طبعا what comes after the units عندنا بقى اللي هي 1 dp which is the 10th and the value of the 10th is 0.1 and then we have the 2 dp which is 100th. وطبعا لو واخدين بالكم يا جماعة أي حاجة بعد اليونتس أو بعد البوينت بيبقى فيها TH في الآخر 0.01 and so on. So this table is just a reminder of the original place values and the values that we might need in this topic or that we will need in this topic. If you wish to write this table in your notes, okay. If not, وانتوا عارفين الكلام ده, then you don't have to. Before we get into the topic بقى ونشرح بقى الدرس ده ونشوف الدرس ده مطلوب مننا فيه ايه، تعالوا بقى نشوف يعني ايه اصلا كلمة bounds. What do I mean by the word bounds? What do I mean by the word bounds? I'm going to pick any number as an example. For example, I'm going to pick the number 8. And then I'm going to ask you a question that says, think of decimals less than 8. When I round them, the answer gives 8. فكروني كده في decimals أقل من 8 لما أعمل لها rounding الإجابة تبقى 8. تقول يا مس دي سهلة جدا بسيطة 7.9 7.8 7.7 7.6 لحد طبعا كام 7.5. All of these numbers, if I decide to round them to the nearest unit أو to the first significant figure, كلهم هيدولي كام 8. دول بقى اسمهم bounds. So what are the bounds? The bounds are the numbers that when rounded give 8. Since these numbers are less than 8, so they are called the lower bounds. They are called the lower bounds. لو جيت الناحية التانية قلت لكم think of decimals more than 8. When I round them, the answer gives 8. فكروا لي في أرقام أو decimals أكبر من 8 more than 8 لما أعمل لهم rounding يدولي 8. تقول لي يا مس دي بسيطة 8.1 8.2 8.3 8.4 لحد 8.49. All of these decimals when rounded to the nearest unit or to the first significant figure, the answer is 8. These are as well called bounds. دول كمان اسمهم bounds. بس علشان دول أكبر من 8 هنسميهم upper bounds because they are more than 8 or they are greater than 8. So I will call them upper bounds. إيه المطلوب مني في الدرس ده؟ What is required in this topic so far? What is required in this topic is the lower bound. مش bounds, the lower bound اللي هي دي. يعني كل ده فاكس ما يلزمنيش. Again, what is required in this topic? What is required in this topic is to find not all of the lower bounds, just the lower bound. اللور bound بس اللي هي دي ودول fix. What is required again in this topic? What is required in this topic is to find the upper bound, not the upper bounds, which is this. And then focus all these. I don't need them. This is what's required. What we're going to do is that we're going to take we're going to take examples immediately. Let me just look if we're going to use the examples in the notes. هناخد example على طول على how to find the upper bound and how to find the lower bound. Yes, so we'll go to the notes, page number 41. We're going to take طبعا الدرس ده يا جماعة متقسم 2 parts. This topic is divided into two parts. The first part is the basic اللي هو finding the upper bound. والupper bound بتبقى مكتوبة كده دايما UB upper bound، هتلاقوني بكتبها كده على طول upper bound and finding the lower bound. طبعا ال lower bound is low B، ده اللي هو ال basic sort of questions يقول لك find the upper bound, find the lower bound. And then we have the second part of the topic which is the operations on bounds. Operations on bounds هم دول مفيش غيرهم يعني. This is the part 1 اللي هو ال basic وده part 2. طبعا هنبتدي بال first part which is the basic part. So let's go back to the notes and I'm going to explain this example over here اللي هو how to find the upper bound and the lower bound وهنشرحه بالتفصيل وهنفهمه. هنا بيقول لي write the upper bound and the lower bound for this number over here if it's rounded to 3 significant figures. If it is rounded to 3, actually you know what, أنا مش هبتدي بده. أنا هاخد example في الوايت بورد عشان أشرح عليه وبعد كده هعمل examples بتاعت النوتس. أقول لكم مثلا for example let me start with this as an explaining example. أقول لكم مثلا the weight of a boy is 70 kilograms corrected to the nearest tens. Sorry, let me write this in a word. Find the upper bound and the lower bound. Let's first understand the question. يعني إيه the weight of the boy is 70 kilograms corrected to the nearest tens. يعني ال 70 دي ده مش الوزن الحقيقي للولد، ده الوزن التقريبي. Again, what does this question mean or what does this part mean? It means that this number over here is not the exact weight of the boy. This is a rounded figure. ده رقم معمول له تقريب. Rounded figure. This is not the exact weight of the boy. هو وزن الولد تقريبا 70. What is the minimum weight, which is the lower bound, the boy could be? What is the maximum weight the boy could be? إيه أقل وزن ممكن يكون للولد ده وإيه أكبر وزن ممكن يكون للولد ده. طبعا minimum weight يعني lower bound, maximum weight يعني upper bound. يبقى تاني the weight of the boy is 70 kilograms corrected to the nearest tens. يعني الولد ده أنا لما شفته كده قدامي قلت تقريبا وزنه 70 كيلو. ممكن يكون وزنه أقل من 70 وممكن يكون وزنه أكبر من 70. إحنا دلوقتي عايزين نعرف what is the minimum weight the boy could be, what is the maximum weight the boy could be. How do I solve these questions? أول حاجة أروح أدور على ال place value اللي مكتوبة بعد كلمة nearest. Now the first step is I go to the question. كلمة corrected دي يعني rounded, approximated. Corrected يعني rounded أو approximated. The first step is look for the place value after the word nearest. Look for the place value after the word nearest. The place value after the word nearest is tens. After I do that, I ask myself, what is the value of the tens? What is the value of the tens? According to the table that I asked you to write in the notes, or according to the information that you already know, التنز دي لو أنا عايزة أحولها رقم هتبقى كام؟ 10. يبقى تاني أروح أدور على ال place value اللي بعد كلمة nearest, which is the tens. وبعد كده I change the tens into its value, which is 10. What do I do بقى with this value? This value I divide it by 2. This value I divide it by 2. هتبقى equals لكام؟ 5. طب وبعدين يا مس هنعمل ايه؟ The weight of the boy is 70. Subtract 5 to find the minimum weight the boy could be. Add 5 to find the maximum weight the boy could be. تمام؟ طبعا ده أول example بس هنعمل 1 و2 و3 و4 ودي أهم حاجة عندي في الدرس. عايزة أقول لكم بقى الفرق ما بين كامبريدج وإدكسل. كامبريدج بيطلب الإجابة إزاي؟ كامبريدج بيبقى تلاقيه حاططها inequality كده، وحاطط هنا less than وحاطط هنا greater than بالشكل ده. على اليمين هنكتب ال upper bound وعلى الشمال هنكتب ال lower bound كده. So let's understand this inequality. This inequality means that the weight of the boy could be any number that starts from 65 لحد 75. لو هتيجوا تاخدوا بالكم هتلاقوا انه هنا مفيش equal sign. يعني الولد ده الوزن بتاعه ممكن يكون اي رقم من 65 لحد 75. 75 مش داخله في اللعبه طبعا. تمام؟ في إدكسل الأسئلة بتبقى مختلفة. بيقول لك find upper bound and lower bound كده. ساعتها when I write the upper bound لازم أكتب له 75 دي. تقول لي يا مس بس ال 75 دي لو عملنا لها rounding هتبقى 80. ماشي، بس هي السقف بتاعي. هي السقف بتاعي. أنا لازم أبقى فاهمة إن أي رقم below 75 when rounded will give 70 بس the upper bound is 75. طبعا هم في كامبريدج بيطلبوها كده، احنا عندنا في إدكسل بنكتبها كده. طبعا هنا what's the lower bound 65. Let me give you another example. يجي يقول لي مثلا for example the مثلا length of a rope for example is مثلا 8 meters. 8 meters corrected to the nearest unit. احنا بقى شغالين إدكسل. السؤال بيبقى واضح وصريح كده. Find the upper bound and the lower bound. تمام؟ Let's understand the question first and see how do we solve. The length of the rope is 8 meters corrected to the nearest unit. What does that mean? It means that the length of the rope is not exactly 8 meters. It's a number. When this number is rounded, will give 8. ده معنى السؤال ان ال8 دي رقم تقريبي. الحبل ده شكله كده 8 متر، لكن هو ممكن يكون اقل او ممكن يكون اكبر. What is the maximum length the rope could be, which is the upper bound? What is the minimum length the rope could be, which is the lower bound? Now let's see the steps again. The first step is اروح ادور على ال place value اللي بعد كلمة nearest. I go and look for the place value after the word nearest. The place value after the word nearest is units. دي ال PV بتاعتي اللي موجودة في السؤال. Look for the place value given in the question. The second step is, what is the value of the units? What is the value of the units? The value of the units is 1. The third step is, what do I do with this value? This value I divide it by 2. Always and forever divide by 2. 1 على 2 which is كام؟ half. طبعا بما اننا Edexcel, to find the upper bound I add half to the original. فهتبقى 8 plus half which is 8.5. To find the lower bound I subtract 8 from the original. 8 minus half, which is 7.5. What you have to understand is الحبل ده ممكن يكون الطول بتاعه 7.5 أو أي رقم أكبر من 7.5 لحد 8.5. تمام كده؟ طبعا احنا بنكتبها كده، بس في كامبريدج طبعا اوقع لان هي زي ما بقول لكم بتتكتب inequality بالشكل ده. طبعا هنا مفيش equal، علشان كده هنا بنكتب الابر باوند اللي هي 8.5، والناحيه الثانيه في equal فبنكتب فيها ال 7.5 which is the lower bound. So what does this mean? This means that the length of the rope could be any number that starts from 7.5 لحد اقل من 8.5. احنا في Edexcel بنكتبها كده على طول. تمام؟ طيب let's go to the notes and solve different type of questions بقى, ones with significant figures. هنا بيقول لي اهو زي ما انتم شايفين write the upper bound. The screen is sharing بس خليني اتاكد والنبي يا ريت الموبايلات على جنب ومحدش يفتح يوتيوب وحد يسرح ولا اي حاجه. سرحتوا اعملوا بوز وارجعوا كملوا الفيديو، درس لطيف ما هوش صعب. هنا بيقول لي write the upper bound and the lower bound for the number 3450 if it's rounded to three significant figures. Rounded وقلنا sometimes أو most of the questions they use the word corrected. وقلنا the word corrected هي نفسها the word rounded. هنا بقى في السؤال ده مش مديني place value صريح، ما قاليش tens, hundreds, units, thousands. قال لي ده معمول rounding to the third significant figure. So step number 1 in this question is going to be look for the third significant figure. أو ببساطة اسأل نفسك فين ال third significant figure؟ فين ال third significant figure؟ طبعا as we said we look from the left أهو. The third significant figure here is going to be the 5. This is the third significant figure. So step number 1 look for the third significant figure. أو أسأل نفسي فين ال third significant figure؟ أيوة لقيتها. I found it, which is the 5. And then the second question is, what is the place value of this significant figure? إيه ال place value بتاعت ال third significant figure دي؟ ال place value بتاعت ال 5 دي هل هي tens؟ هل هي hundreds؟ هل هي thousands؟ إيه ظروفها؟ يبقى تاني فين ال third significant figure؟ ال third significant figure is the 5. تاني سؤال اسأله لنفسي إيه هي ال place value بتاعتها؟ ال place value بتاعتها is tens. طيب what is the third question? The third question is what is the value of the tens? What is the value of the tens? The value of the tens is 10. What do I do بقى with this value over here? I divide by 2. هتبقى كام؟ 5. يبقى تاني بعد ما بلاقي third significant figure واشوف ايه ال place value بتاعتها اللي هي طلعت عندي tens، كتبت ال value بتاعت ال tens اللي هي ال 10. وبعد كده مش هنقول ال value 50. عشان كده يا جماعه انا خليتكم تكتبوا التيبل دي اللي هي اللي فوق. ان انا هنا بكتب لما بكتب فينها خليناها كتبناها هنا اهو. انا باخد دول الاوريجينالز وهم دول اللي انا بعمل لهم ديفايد باي 2. تمام. محدش يقول لي يا مس هنا الفاليو بتاعت ال 550 فاعمل 50 ديفايد باي 2. لا انا باخد الاوريجينال اللي هي 10 على 2 which is 5. How do I find the upper bound? I add 5 to the original. فهتبقى سوري انا كاتبه الرقم غلط. هتبقى هنا 3450 plus ال 5 دي هتبقى 3455. How do I find the lower bound? Subtract 5. 3450 minus 5 هتبقى 3445. Add 5, subtract 5. Add 5, subtract 5. Another example. هنا قال لي the weight of the cat is 6.4 kilograms corrected to two significant figures. تاني what does this mean? It means ثانية واحدة بس أجيب الكالكوليتر. أنا قاعدة كده ما جبتهاش. ينفع الكلام ده؟ ادي الكالكوليتر جنبي ويا ريت يا جماعه بس الدرس ده زي ما اتفقنا فيديو لطيف يتذاكر كده في البيت بضمير. طبعا هنا بيقول لي the weight of the cat is 6.4 corrected to two significant figures. Again, what does that mean? It means القطه دي شكلها كده 6.4 kilograms. This cat could weigh less, could weigh more. What is the maximum weight the cat could be? What is the minimum weight the cat could be? يعني ده مش وزن القطة الحقيقي، ده وزن تقريبي كده. تمام؟ طبعا هنا في السؤال قال لي find the upper bound, find the lower bound. يعني what's the maximum weight the cat could be? What is the minimum weight the cat could be? Let's see. أول حاجة هنا طبعا زي ما اتفقنا مش كل المسائل بيديني place value واضح. أحيانا بيديني significant figure. زي هنا كده. أول حاجة قال لك دايما 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 أدور على ال place value اللي مكتوب بعد كلمة correct. اللي مكتوب بعد كلمة correct. لو واضح وصريح خير وبركة. لو significant figure زي هنا يبقى لازم أدور عليها. So step number 1 أروح أسأل نفسي فين ال second significant figure. تاني I look for the place value given after the word correct. Now, after the word correct, it says here that I am rounding to two significant figures. So I have to look for where is the second significant figure? I have to look for the second significant figure. Where is it? So let's go to our number. The second significant figure is the 4. The second question that I ask myself is بعد ما سألت نفسي فين ال second significant figure؟ أسأل نفسي إيه ال place value بتاعته؟ What is the place value of this second significant figure? The place value of this second significant figure is 10th or 1 dp. It's the same. And then 10th is equivalent to 0.1. What is the value of the 10th؟ يبقى أنا بسأل نفسي فين ال second significant figure؟ إيه ال place value بتاعته؟ بعد كده أحولها رقم. ال 10th is 0.1. هنعمل إيه في 0.1 دي؟ قلنا always and forever divide the value by 2, so you end up with 0.05. Add 0.05 to find the upper bound. Subtract 0.05 to find the lower bound. But this is the minimum weight the cat could be. This is the maximum weight the cat could be. Another example. Ali, the diameter of the CD is 11.8, corrected to 3 significant figures. Write the upper bound and the lower bound. Write the upper bound and the lower bound. And as we said, these are the basic questions and they come quite often in exams. Now, what are the steps again? The steps are look for the third significant figure. Where is the third significant figure in this question? The third significant figure in this question is the 8. The second question is, what is the place value of this 8? This 8 over here is the 10th or 1 dp. And then what do I do? Change the 10th into its value. Divide this value by 2. Add this number to find the upper bound, which is 11.85. Subtract this number to find the lower bound, which is 11.75. تمام. يبقى تاني أروح أول حاجة أسأل نفسي فين ال third significant figure؟ ال third significant figure هو ال 8. تاني سؤال، إيه ال place value بتاعت ال 8 دي؟ ال place value بتاعت ال 8 دي is the 10th. وبعد كده طب إيه ال value بتاعت ال 10th؟ قلنا ال value الأصلية، مش تقول لي 0.8. لا، ال value الأصلية بتاعت ال 10th اللي هي 0.1. هاخد ال value دي divide by 2, add, subtract. Add to find the upper bound, subtract to find the lower bound. خلينا نكمل ناخد بقى أسئلة شوية مختلفة. تمام؟ اللي هو طبعا يا جماعة احنا هنعمل الأهم فالمهم، فطبعا هنا بقى يبتدي الكلام. هنا بيقول لي the weight of the book is 0.75 kilograms correct to 2 decimal places. بصوا بقى هنلعب لعبة. أول ما تشوفوا كلمة correct you stop and freeze. عامل freeze وما كملش قراية السؤال. أطلع الباوندز على طول. Whenever you read the word correct you stop and you find the bounds immediately. وبعد كده أكمل بقى أشوف السؤال عايز مني إيه. يبقى تاني whenever you read the word correct stop immediately. Find the bounds first. And then we'll see what the question requires. طبعا هنا قال لي this is corrected to 2 decimal places. طبعا دي لطيفة لأن هو مديني place value على طول ال 2 decimal places اللي هي دي. طبعا تعالوا كده على جنب ال second decimal place is the 100th. What is the value of the 100th? The value of the 100th is 0.01. قلنا what do I do with this value? I divide it by 2. هتبقى 0.005. What do I do with this number over here? I add this number to find the upper bound, UB, to find the upper bound, 0.755. So this is the maximum weight the boy could be. And I subtract this number over here to find the lower bound. يبقى أول ما أشوف كلمة correct, I stop immediately, find the bounds. تمام؟ تعالوا بقى نكمل قراية السؤال. Calculate the lower bound for the weight of 40 books. بصوا بقى الكتاب ده تقريبا وزنه 0.75. اللور باوند معناها ايه؟ معناها ده اقل وزن ممكن يكون للكتاب. الابر باوند معناها ايه؟ معناها ده اكتر وزن ممكن يكون للكتاب، طبعا يعني بغض النظر عن الحته بتاعت الفرق ما بين كامبريدج وإدكسل. هو قال لي بقى ايه؟ calculate the lower bound of the weight of 40 books. طب بقول لك ايه يا عم انت، ما تجيب لي كده 40 كتاب من ابو مينيمم ده. انا عايزه اعرف the weight of 40 كتاب من ابو مينيمم. علشان كده بقى لو هنتكلم mathematically, whenever you read the word correct, you stop, you find the bounds, focus original. I will not use the original in the question anymore. So again, after you read the word correct, you find the bounds, and خلاص you ignore the original value, you don't need it anymore. After I read the word correct, I stop, I freeze, focus original. Calculate the lower bound of the weight for 40 books. يعني هات لي 40 كتاب من ابو minimum ده. So طبعا how would I find the weight of 40 books? طبعا to find the weight of 40 books, you take the number of books and multiply by the lower bound. يبقى أنا بجيب الباوندز الأول وبعد كده بستعملها في الحل، مش أعمل الويت الأول. طبعا أنا هيطلع لي 29.8. الولاد هنا بيعملوا إيه؟ يعملوا الأول 40 times 0.75 وبعد كده يعملوا اللور باوند الإجابة. لا، you find the bounds first, you ignore the original, then you use the bounds in the rest of the question. طلع الباوندز، فاكس اوريجينال، استعمل بقى واحده من دول في بقيه السؤال على حسب ما هو عايز. طبعا انا اصلا لازم اشوف السؤال ماشي ازاي. يعني هو بيقول لي كالكوليت ذا لور باوند في 40 كتاب، ما انا كده كده لو عايزه وزن 40 كتاب اكيد هعمل 40 times الوزن. But since the question here says find the lower bound, so I will find the weight of the 40 books of the minimum weight. يبقى أنا I find the bounds first, I ignore the original, and then I use any of these to see what the question requires. طبعا من هنا بقى يبتدي الكلام المهم. تعالوا كده هنا نشوف. طبعا دي بس نوت كده احنا بنقولها انه قبل ما نجيب الباوندز لازم نتاكد ان هي same unit. Let's check this question over here. طبعا whenever you're required to find bounds of any question, just make sure that they are the same unit. فهنا مثلا for example بيقول لي if the length of a piece of wood is 0.7 meters corrected to the nearest 10 centimeter. I cannot find the bounds immediately. Now we're going to do it two ways. تمام. Either change this into centimeter, and let's just write the conversion first. From 1 meter to centimeter, you multiply by 100, or if you want to change from centimeter to meter, you divide by 100. So you cannot find the bounds in this question while they are different units بالشكل ده. You either change this or you change this. It is totally up to you. Let's see. مثلا I'm going to change this. So how do I change 0.7 meters to centimeters? I multiply by 100. So this would simply change into 70 centimeters. تمام. طبعا هنا, as we said, you always look for the value given after the word nearest. So the value here is given clearly, which is 10 centimeters. Now, since these are the same units, and I divide by 2, I divide the value by 2, which is 5, add, subtract. Add to find the upper bound, subtract, add 5, to find the upper bound, subtract 5 to find the lower bound. Now, if the question says give your answer in centimeter, then you can just leave it at this stage. While if the question says change to meters, then you can divide by 100 and change it back to meters. طبعا, it depends on what the question requires. This is if you decide to change the original, okay? Type, what if I want to change the value given after the word nearest? Yeah, now I decide to change this. So 10 centimeters, if I want to change to meters, how do I do that? I divide by 100. So this would change into 0.1 meters. Tamam? Now, since this is 0.1 meters and since this is meters, you take the value immediately and you divide by 2. So this will change into 0.05. So I will work on this بقى. وهي meters كده بالشكل ده. Add 0.05 to find the upper bound. and this will be in meters automatically. Subtract 0.05 to find the lower bounds, and this would change into 0.65 meters. So in this question over here, we just discussed the possibility of the sometimes, and yes, this actually sometimes occurs in exams, in the units are different. طبعا انتوا يا جماعه وانتوا بتتفرجوا you could pause at any time and بس تشربوا وتعملوا، بس لو سمحتوا مش هينفع تسرحوا او تقعدوا تتفرجوا على فيديوهات او الكلام ده كله، لان احنا متفقين ان احنا في شويه دروس هنضطر ان احنا نعملها كده علشان بس احنا مزنوقين في الوقت. طيب تعالوا بقى ايه نشوف بقيه الاسئله. This question over here, okay, and then we'll move on to the operations. Now احنا whenever we discuss, now if you remember I always tell you يا جماعة ان احنا دايما لما بنشرح اي درس بنحاول ان نشرح كل ال ideas. Now this is one of the ideas that used to come in exams long ago but not anymore, but I will explain it because as we agreed earlier at the beginning of the year is that whenever we explain any topic we try and go through all the ideas of this topic. Now let's see what does the question here say. The question here says the length of a side of a square is 7.4 centimeter corrected to 1 decimal place. Now, as we said, the first thing that you immediately do whenever you read the word correct is that you stop and you freeze and you find the bounds immediately. In this question, again, I'm going to go through the steps again. Look for the place value given after the word correct. So the place value given after the word correct here is 1 decimal place, which is the 10th. And then ask yourself, what is the value of the 10th? The value of the 10th is 0.1. And if you remember, as we said, this value, you always divide it by 2. You don't have an option. So I divided by 2, so it's 0.05. Add this number to find the upper bound, which is 7.45. Subtract this number to find the lower bound, which is 7.35. After I find the lower, and after I find the upper, I ignore the original. خلاص. أول ما نقرأ كلمة correct, stop, freeze, find bounds, focus original. Now let's see what question A requires. Question A says, find the upper bound of the parameter of the square. Find the upper bound of the parameter of the square. So I will use the upper bound to find the upper parameter. طبعا how في حاجات بقى انتم المفروض نبقى already عارفينها، يعني انا هنا بيقول لي parameter of square، انا المفروض already ابقى عارف how do I find parameter of square. I find parameter of square by يعني ممكن اعمل add all 4 sides or multiply the side by 4. بس هل هاخد دي؟ لا. No. I don't use this. I use the bounds. Since the question says find the upper bound of the parameter, so I take the upper bound and I multiply by 4. Why do I multiply by 4? Of course, because all the sides of the square are equal. So instead of adding them 4 times, I find the upper bound, which is 29.8. Now let's look at the second question. The second question says, find the lower bound of the parameter. Now the lower bound of the parameter, you take the lower bound again, and you multiply by 4. So let's take the lower bound and multiply by 4. So I'll get an answer of 29.4. Now, as I said, question B ما بقاش بيجي كتير في الامتحانات، يعني بقاله فترة كبيرة قوي ما بيجيش، بس أنا لازم أشرح ال degree of accuracy. Now, what is meant by degree of accuracy? Let's find the original parameter, although this is not required in your steps, بس I just have a point. احنا هنجيب البارامتر الأصلي مع إنه مش مطلوب ولا هيفيدني في حاجة، أنا بس عايزة أأكد على معلومة معينة في الحتة بتاعة ال degree of accuracy. Okay, so this is the original parameter. Let's assume we are 3 people. I'm the teacher, Ms. Dina, and then we have مثلا for example Layla, and we have مثلا John. إحنا الثلاثة. Okay, and let's assume that 3 of us want to make a table in a form of a square. إحنا الأربعة، إحنا الثلاثة عايزين نعمل ترابيزة على شكل ترابيزة على شكل مربع. فرحنا للنجار وقلنا له احنا رايحين 3 بقى، رايحين احنا الثلاثة وبتاع، واحنا ايه رايحين نقول له احنا عايزين نعمل ترابيزة على شكل مربع. فالنجار سألنا قال لنا what is the parameter of this table. So as we said, all three of us, we decided to build a table, and we went to a carpenter and asked him to build this table for us. So he asked us, what is the parameter? Layla said the parameter is 29.8. John said the parameter is 29.4. I said that the parameter is 29.6. Now, what did the carpenter say? The carpenter said, all of you go agree on one number and come back to me. طبعا الراجل كل واحد فينا عمال يسألنا ايه البارامتر، ده قال له 29.8 وده قال له 29.4 وده قال له 29.6، فالراجل طبعا اتخنق مننا، فقال لنا ايه؟ روحوا خلصوا لي الخناقه دي بعيد، اتفقوا على رقم وتعالوا لي. اتفقوا على رقم وتعالوا لي. اتفقوا على رقم دي هي دي degree of accuracy. The question here is, what did we all agree on? اتفقنا احنا الثلاثة على كام؟ Now, ركزوا معايا بقى في الجملة دي. أنا قلت لهم بصوا أنا math teacher، فاحنا هنعمل rounding ل 2 significant figures كلنا. فأنا لما أعمل rounding ل 2 significant figures طلعت 30. وليلى لما عملت زيي طلعت 30. بس جون لما عمل ل 2 significant figures طلع كام؟ 29. فأنا اتفاق اللي قلته ما ينفعش. لازم أختار significant figure يخلي الراوندنج بتاع الupper والlower والoriginal يعني كده زي بعض. يبقى تاني degree of accuracy يعني ايه؟ يعني النجار قال لنا روحوا غوروا اتفقوا لي على رقم وتعالوا لي انتوا الثلاثه. فبما ان انا بقى مدرسه ماث فقلت لهم تمام يا جماعه احنا هنعمل الحوار ده بالراوندنج. طب rounding to the first significant figure ولا to the second significant figure؟ لا. We will all round to the second significant figure. Because if I round this to the second significant figure, my answer is 30. Layla, if she rounds the second significant figure, will get 30. Sorry, مش السكند، ايه اللي انا بقوله ده؟ The first. First. احنا عملنا السكند وفكس، دلوقتي هنعمل الفيرست. الفيرست في الاوريجينال هيديني 30، والفيرست في الابر هيديني 30، والفيرست في اللور هيديني 30. So what is the degree of accuracy؟ هتلاقيه بقى بيقول لك هنا في السؤال give the parameter of the square the degree of accuracy. So احنا we're going to go back to the carpenter and we'll tell him that the degree of accuracy is 30. فهو سألنا ليه؟ بناء على ايه قررتوا انه the degree of accuracy is 30؟ How did you decide that the degree of accuracy is 30؟ هنقول له because both upper bound and lower bound when rounded to the first significant figure both give 30. أنا ماليش لازمة، أنا بس كنت بأكد على معلومة. يبقى the degree of accuracy is a number لازم upper bound lower bound هما الاثنين يتعمل لهم rounding لنفس significant figure عشان هما الاثنين يطلعوا لي نفس الإجابة. هي دي degree of accuracy. So what is the degree of accuracy? The degree of accuracy is a number in which if I round the upper bound and the lower bound to the same place value, both roundings will give 30. And as I said, دي ما بقتش تيجي كتير في الامتحانات، بس أنا لازم أقولها الحتة بتاعة degree of accuracy. نكمل بقى هنا نشوف عندنا question number 2 ده، وبعد كده هندخل على الجزء الثاني من الدرس اللي هو operations. هنا بيقول لي the distance from London to Birmingham is 179 kilometers corrected to the nearest kilometer. طبعا as we said, whenever you read the word correct, you stop immediately and you find the bounds. And as we said, طبعا whenever you're dealing with bounds questions, please make sure that it's the same unit. طبعا since this is kilometer and this is kilometer, so I have no issues. I can start finding the bounds immediately. The question here says to the nearest kilometer. To the nearest kilometer, to the nearest meter, to the nearest centimeter, to the nearest kilogram means to the nearest unit. What is the value of the units? The value of the units is 1. What do I do with this value? Divide by 2, which is half. As we said, add to find the upper bound, subtract to find the lower bound. Ignore the original, will not be needed anymore in the question. بيقول لي بقى طبعا بيقول لي بقى هنا ايه. Let's read the rest of the question. On Monday, Sean drove from London to Birmingham and back. So Monday, he went this distance twice, going and coming. He repeated the journey Tuesday and Wednesday. فMonday راح وجه. From London to Birmingham and back. Tuesday راح وجه. Wednesday راح وجه. So how many times did he do this journey? He did this journey 6 times. Twice Monday, twice Tuesday, twice on Wednesday. Calculate the upper bound for the total distance. Calculate the upper bound for the total distance. So which number will I need from the bounds? طبعا I will need the upper bound. عشان هو عايز أكبر مسافة مشيها شان ده. So I take the upper bound and I multiply it by 6. 179.5 multiplied by 6. So I get the total distance traveled by السيد شان. صح? Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. London and back, London and back, London and back. And راح وجي, راح وجي, راح وجي. So he did it 6 times. So what did we discuss so far? We discussed the basic upper bound, lower bound. We discussed the part in which we have to do the same units and check about the units. We discussed that whenever you read the word correct, you find the bounds, you ignore the original because sometimes you will use the bounds in the rest of the question, and we did the part with the degree of accuracy. Now, the last part in this topic over here is operating on bounds. طبعا we have the 4 basic operations in math: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. ودايما هتلاقوا إنه what applies on addition applies on multiplication. That's why they both have happy faces. So if I explain addition, it means I've explained multiplication as well. And what applies on subtraction applies on division. That's why you'll see that they both have sad faces. So if I explain subtraction, means I've explained division as well. I'm going to take this example over here as an explaining example for all the operations. But طبعا in exams, you will never be asked to find all operations in a question. أنا بس هشرح عليها. Let's see. طبعا المسائل اللي فاتت لو كنتوا واخدين بالكم كان بيديك رقم واحد يقول لك هات لي الupper bound أو lower bound بتاعه. بس دلوقتي بما إننا هنعمل addition و subtraction و multiplication و division، يعني إحنا since we're going to operate يبقى we need more than one bound to operate on. لأنه مش هينفع أعمل addition رقم واحد بس، لازم يبقى معاه رقم تاني. طيب let's see. هنا بيقول لي corrected to the first significant figure x equals 9 and y equals 6. Let's write both numbers. X equals 9, y equals 6. Find the bounds immediately. تمام؟ طبعا corrected to the first significant figure. As we said, whenever the question gives first significant figure, you have to look where is this first significant figure. So the first significant figure in both numbers is the units, and the value of the units is 1. And as we said, you always divide by 2, which is 0.5. Add, subtract, add, subtract. Add 0.5 to find the upper bound. Subtract 0.5 to find the lower bound. So the upper bound of the y, the lower bound of the y, the upper bound of the x, the lower bound of the x. And خلاص, this I don't use anymore. Now, I'm going to divide the screen. I mean, you don't have to write this down, but يعني I'm just trying to show, I'm going to operate on all. يعني أنا هعمل operations كلها. وزي ما اتفقنا هو عمره ما يطلب مني الاوبريشنز كلها يعني. بس أنا هعملها من باب الشرح. أهو. Addition, multiplication, subtraction, division. Let's see all the possible questions. يقول لي إيه؟ Find, I'm not going to write this here. Find the upper bound of x plus y. أو ممكن يقول لي find the maximum sum. يعني إيه find the upper bound of x plus y؟ يعني هات لي bound من ال x وهات لي bound من ال y، لما أعملهم plus بعض يطلع لي أكبر إجابة. هات رقم من ال x ورقم من ال y، لما أعملهم plus بعض يطلع لي أكبر إجابة. Whenever the question is addition and it says find the upper bound of x plus y, I simply take upper x and the upper of the y. باللوجيك يا جماعة، أنا عايزة رقمين يطلعوا لي أكبر إجابة، فأكيد هاخد الupper بتاع ال x plus الupper بتاع ال y equals أيا كان. أو ممكن يقول لي find the lower bound of x plus y. يعني هات رقم من ال x وهات رقم من ال y، لما أعملهم plus بعض يطلع لي أصغر إجابة. طبيعي هاخد lower مع lower. So I take the lower of x, which is 8.5, and I add to it the lower of y, which is equal whatever. What applies on addition applies on multiplication, and this is question B. يقول لي هنا إيه؟ Find the upper bound of x times y. What does that mean? It means that you need a bound from the x and a bound from the y. When you multiply them, you get the biggest answer. So logically, I take upper x, upper y. The upper of the x, which is 9.5, multiplied by the upper of the y, which is 6.5 on the calculator. 9.5 times 6.5. طبعا I'll give you a shortcut that will make it very easy for you, which is 61.75. أو ممكن يقول لي find the lower bound. Find the lower bound of x times y. What does that mean? Pick a bound from the x, pick a bound from the y, so that when you multiply them, you get the smallest answer. So logically, I will take the lower of the x and the lower of the y. Now let's go back to the table, and I want you to write this something. I want you to write this. عايزاكم تكتبوا الكلام ده يا جماعة. يعني طبعا هنا as you can see the rules are written sum of maximum max plus max. يعني لما يقول لي find upper bound I will هعمل ده plus ده زي بعضه. يعني upper bound of sum of max upper bound 2 upper sum of minimum يعني قصده مثلا lower bound يبقى lower و lower. أنا عايزاكم بقى تكتبوا الكلام ده. لما المسألة تكون addition أو multiplication الباوندز بيكونوا زي بعض. Please write this down. زي السؤال. زي بعض زي السؤال. يعني ايه زي بعض زي السؤال؟ يعني لو السؤال upper فهاخد الاثنين upper. لو السؤال lower هاخد الاثنين lower. طبعا what applies on addition applies on multiplication. يبقى في الاديشن وفي المultiplication طبعا this is written يعني with math. if I want to find the product of the maximum يعني the upper bound of maximum upper times upper, the lower bound which is lower times lower. احنا بقى مش هنقولها كده، احنا هنقول ايه؟ حسب السؤال. السؤال دايما بيقول لو upper او maximum يعني upper maximum lower minimum دايما باخد الباوندز زي بعض زي السؤال. زي بعض زي السؤال. يعني لو السؤال قال لي find upper bound باخد كله upper. لو السؤال قال لي find lower bound باخد كله lower. بس ده فين؟ في الاديشن والمultiplication. Let's move on to subtraction and division. Subtraction and division is a bit tricky. مش tricky ولا حاجة والله برضو. I'm going to explain it in details and then I'll give you the shortcut as well. يجي مثلا يقول لي find the upper bound of x minus y. Let's see if I do as addition, take upper and upper. Upper of x minus upper of y. Now what is the answer over here? 3. طيب, what if I take upper and lower? Let's take the upper of the x and the lower of the y. Now what is the answer now? 4. يعني ايه upper bound of x minus y؟ يعني هات رقم من ال x ورقم من ال y لما اعملهم minus بعض يديني اكبر اجابة. تاني, what does it mean to find the upper bound of x minus y? يعني take a number from the x or a bound from the x and a bound from the y so that when I subtract them I get the biggest answer. So am I going to take upper and upper ولا upper and lower؟ لا, I'm going to take upper and lower. So in subtraction, طبعا what applies on subtraction applies on division. So again, if the question says find the upper bound of x minus y, you take the upper of x, lower of y. And this is the upper of x, which is 9.5, minus the lower of y, which is 5.5, equals 4. ليه؟ لأنه if I take upper and lower, this will give the biggest difference. تعالوا بقى نأكد تاني على المعلومة دي عشان الحبة دي حابة تفهموها. فرضاً قال لي find the lower bound of x minus y. Let's see if I do the same as addition and take two lowers. 8.5 minus 5.5, which is كام؟ 3. But if I take lower minus upper, what is the answer? 2. ما هو يعني ايه lower bound of x minus y؟ يعني bound من x وbound من y. لما اعملهم minus بعض يطلع لي اصغر اجابه. So what am I trying to say? And this is what is required in question number A. This is question A, by the way, and this is the answer of question B. Now here it says in question A, calculate the lower bound of x minus y. So what I did over here is that I took the lower of the x and the upper of the y. Lower x, which is 8.5, minus upper y, which is 6.5, which is equal to 2. طبعا I'll give you a shortcut as well, but let's just move on to division straight away. لأنه what applies on subtraction applies on division. So it's if it says find the upper bound of x over y, I take the upper of x divided by the lower of y. Upper of x divided by lower of y equals whatever. If it says find the lower bound of x over y, I take the lower of the x over the upper of the y. طب يا مس برضه أنا متلخبط. مين هيبقى الupper ومين هيبقى اللور؟ بصوا بقى. This I want you to write down in the table. طبعا the rules over here as you see are written in the table. بس الناس الباقي بقى عايزاكم تكتبوا لي الكلام ده. يبقى احنا قلنا في الاديشن والمالتيبليكيشن الباوندز زي بعض زي السؤال. في الاديشن وفي المالتيبليكيشن الباوندز زي بعض زي السؤال. في السبتراكشن وفي الديفيجن يا ريت تكتبوا الكلام ده معايا. الباوندز غير بعض. يعني ايه غير بعض؟ يعني واحده upper وواحده ايه؟ وواحده lower. طب مين يمس الupper ومين اللور؟ الأولانية زي السؤال. يبقى in subtraction and in division the bounds are different. What do I mean by the bounds are different? One upper, one lower. Which is the upper, which is the lower? The first item the same as the question and the other is the opposite. يعني مثلا لو قال لي find the upper bound of x minus y. طبعا since this is subtraction يبقى one احنا بقى اتفقنا انه بدل هي subtraction او division الباوندز ما هماش زي بعض. واحده وواحده. واحده upper وواحده lower. طب مين الupper ومين اللور؟ الاولانيه زي السؤال. الاولانيه زي السؤال. يعني دي هتبقى الupper. وطبعا بما انه ده subtraction فالثانيه هتبقى عكسها على طول which is the lower. which is the lower. خليني بس احط الشارجر بتاع اللابتوب. تمام. فدي اهم حاجه عندنا ودي اللي احنا بس هحط اللابتوب بس الشارجر ثواني. ودي اهم حاجه عندنا ان احنا نبقى عارفينها اللي هي فكره operation on bounds which is the upper which is the lower والكلام ده. طبعا what are we going to do in the rest of the question? In the rest of the session? In the rest of the session we are going to solve على operations. بس ده اللي هنعمله بقية الحصة لأنه أحيانا الأسئلة بتبقى شوية دمها تقيل مش قوي يعني. So what do we do؟ مش هنشيل ده. Yes, تمام. So what are we going to do for the rest of the session? For the rest of the session, we're just going to practice on operations and bounds. So again, let me remind you on if the question is addition, the bounds are the same as the question, and if the bounds are different, if it's addition and multiplication, the bounds are the same. If it's subtraction and division, the bounds are different. قلنا لو addition و multiplication الباوندز زي بعض زي السؤال، ولو subtraction و division الباوندز غير بعض. يعني ايه غير بعض؟ يعني واحدة upper وواحدة lower. طب مين الupper مين اللور؟ الأولانية زي السؤال. So let's take examples. هنا مثلا أهو question number 2. Question number 2 says correct to one significant figures. The x is equal to 8 and the y is equal to 2. Actually, I get this question quite often. Miss, why don't we just put plus 5 و plus 5 و plus half و plus half? أنا مش بحب الحتة التحفيظية دي. لو بتعرفوا بعد كده تجيبوا الباوندز سريعا ما عنديش أزمة. بس you need to have a system to work on. So again, let's do it بقى. How to find the bounds. Look for the place value after the word correct, which is the first significant figure. Both numbers have one significant figure only, which is the units. The value of the units is 1. So the bounds immediately, طبعا as we said, this value you divide by 2. So upper, lower, upper, lower. 1 على 2, which is 0.5. So the upper bound is 2.5, lower bound 1.5, upper bound 8.5, lower bound 7.5, and this ignore. As we said, you find the bounds, focus origin. Calculate the lower bound for x over y. Calculate the lower bound of x over y. The first thing that you have to do whenever you're dealing with questions and operations like these, you have to check what is the operation in this question. Now, this question, the operation is division. In division, what is the key of division? Now, as we said, in division, the bounds are different. One upper, one lower. Which is upper, which is the lower? The first quantity is like the question. يبقى تاني أنا هنا المسألة دي عندي division. أجي بقى أفتكر الdivision دي كانت إيه؟ الباوندز غير بعض. يعني ايه غير بعض؟ يعني قلنا واحدة upper وواحدة lower. طب مين الupper ومين اللور؟ الأولانية زي السؤال. الأولانية زي السؤال. So x is lower, y is upper. خلاص. So I take the lower of the x, 7.5, divide by the upper of the y, which is 2.5. And then you just do the math on the calculator. 7.5 divided 2.5, which is 3. Okay. Moving on to question number 3. هنا بيقول لي correct to the nearest centimeter. Alan's height is 1.76 meters. So in this question over here, we have different units. Okay, now let's do it the smart way. I will not change the heights into centimeters. We can actually change this, by the way, if you want. And I'm going to do it the complicated way in a way. يعني أنا هعملها بالطريقة المعقدة. مش هحول ده سنتيمتر. هحول ده متر. To the nearest centimeter. Now, if you remember, if I want to change centimeter to meters, I divide by 100. So 1 centimeter divided by 100 is 0.01 meters. طبعا, as we said, the place value after the word nearest, or the value given after the word nearest, is always divided by 2, which is 0.005. And I'm going to do it immediately بقى. Alan, Nina, upper, lower, upper, lower. And then to find the abstract. So upper 0.645, lower 1.635, upper Alan 1.765, lower Alan 1.755. هنا بيقول لك calculate the upper bound for the difference of their heights. So I am required to calculate upper bound, and the operation is subtraction. So since the operation is subtraction, so it's the same as the previous question, one upper, one lower. Okay, now which is upper, which is lower? طبعا احنا يا جماعه في الباوندز ما عندناش نيجاتيف. يعني مش هنعمل نينا ماينس ألان، هنعمل طبعا الطويل ماينس القصير. يعني هنعمل ألان ماينس نين. ودايما لما بيقول لي calculate the difference فبعمل الكبير minus الصغير. So here it says difference. Difference means subtraction. Upper bound of difference. طبعا as we said, Alan first, then Nina. Since it says upper, so I'm going to take the upper of Alan and the lower of Nina. Upper of Alan 1.765 minus lower of Nina 1.645. لا sorry, أنا أخذت الupper بتاع Alan, هناخد lower بتاع Nina. أهو. So 1 point, let's do it on the calculator, 1.765 minus 1.635. So it's 0.13 meters, and this is the difference between their heights. If you decide to change the whole question to centimeter and work with it, it will be absolutely fine. Question number 4. Word problems, same idea. Sometimes the operation ما بتبقاش باينة قوي. يعني أحيانا الأوبريشن تبقى مش باينة. يعني في question 3 قال لي find difference. دي كانت واضحة division. Let's see this question over here. السؤال هنا بيقول لي إيه؟ A crane can lift a load of 3210 kilograms corrected to 3 significant figures. تاني, let's find the bounds immediately for the crane. الكرين معرفش اللي هو الونش تقريبا, حاجة زي كده. الكرين ده يقدر يشيل اللود ده بالتقريب. طبعا هنجيب الupper bound والlower bound بتاع الكرين. Now, the place value, or not the place value, what is given after the word correct is third significant figure. So let's look for the third significant figure here. The third significant is the 1, and the place value of the 1 is tens. The value of the tens is 10. Divide by 2, which is 5. Add, subtract. Add to find the upper. Subtract to find the lower. خلينا بقى نفهم ايه الارقام دي. تمام؟ انا دلوقتي السواق بتاع الونش ده وجي حد سالني قال لي الونش ده يقدر يشيل كام كيلو؟ قلت له يا عم انت يقدر يشيل بالتقريب كده 3210 كيلو جرامز. بس انا لو قرصت عليه وحبيت اجيب اخره هيشيل كام؟ 3215. بس انا مش هعمل كده. انا هبقى حنين عليه وهشيل 3205. تمام؟ So 3215, this is the maximum weight the crane can lift, and 3205, this is the minimum weight the crane can lift. وهنا كمان بعد ما اخلص كل اللي في النوتس الاول هخليكم تفتحوا لي classified part 4 علشان دي في مسألة شبهها فيها تركاية كده. بس خلينا في دي الاول. فادي الكرين اهو. The crane, the weight of the box is 92 kilograms corrected to the nearest kilogram. Let's find the bounds of the boxes. The boxes are collected to the nearest kilogram. وقلنا the word kilogram indicates that it's the nearest unit as long as this is kilogram as well. So I will find the bounds immediately بقى. 92.5 and 91.5. This is the upper bound and the lower bound. So I have a crane, and in front of this crane there are boxes. تمام? Now, what is required in the question? What is required in the question is calculate the greatest number of boxes the crane can lift. تمام؟ أنا سواق الونش أهو. أنا الونش أهو. أنا في واحد ونش باين بيلعب كورة صح؟ مش عارفة بيلعب إيه. أنا فاكرة كان في ونش. المهم يعني أنا الونش أهو قدامي بوكسات. What is the maximum number of the boxes I can lift? ايه اكتر عدد من البوكسات اقدر اشيلها؟ هل هنا الاوبريشن واضحه ولا مش واضحه؟ في ناس هتلقط الاوبريشن على طول وفي ناس لا. What if you did not figure out what is the operation? If you did not, اللي قال division صح هي division. If you did not figure out what is the operation, use cross multiplication. طب يا miss, how will I use cross multiplication? If the one box is equivalent to 92 kilograms, how many boxes will be equivalent to 3210? By cross multiplication, I'll find that I will divide the weight of I will divide the crane by the box. يبقى if you cannot figure out what is the operation, cross multiply. هتسهل لي الدنيا. البوكس ب 92 كيلو. طب كام بوكس يعمل لي 3210؟ By cross multiplication, I will find out that I will divide the crane by box. So this is a division question, and which is divided by which? The crane is divided by the box. And since the question here says calculate the greatest number of these boxes, يعني I am required to find upper bound of division. Since division and subtraction are like sisters, what applies on subtraction applies on division. وقلنا in divisions the bounds are different. One upper, one lower. Which is upper and which is the lower? الأولانية زي السؤال. So upper crane over lower box. يبقى أنا لازم الأول أجيب الباوندز وأفكس الأوريجينال. أحاول أشوف إيه هي الأوبريشن، وبعد كده على حسب الأوبريشن هقرر هل الباوندز زي بعض زي السؤال ولا غير بعض، واحدة upper وواحدة lower والأولانية زي السؤال. Since this question over here is division, and since you are required to find upper bound of division, so الباوندز غير بعض مختلفين، واحدة upper وواحدة lower. مين الupper ومين اللور؟ الأولانية زي السؤال. So upper crane over lower box. So I will take the upper of the crane over the lower of the box. And let's do the math on the calculator. 3215, 3215, Allah, 3215 divided by 91.5. هتطلع لي الإجابة 35.13. طبعا since I'm required to find number of boxes فأنا I will just round فهتبقى 35. لما هشيل 35 بوكس والغطا بتاع بوكس I will carry out the crane will carry 35 boxes. اللي زهقان يفصل ويرجع تاني، لكن النوتس قصادنا يا جماعه الدرس ده انا لو في المدرسه هشرحه بنفس الطريقه بدون اي اختلاف، فاللي زهق يفصل ويرجع. حطوا لي بقى الموبايلات على جنب، وعايز الكلام ده كله يبقى بضمير كده. يلا يا حلوين يا حبايبي نكمل. هنا بيقول لي when full، نتكلم بقى نشوف القصة هنا عندنا. وطبعا هنا as we said there is an example بس I'll do at the end of the video related to crane in the classified. هنا بيقول لي بقى when full a car's petrol tank holds 54 liters correct to the nearest liter. طبعا as we said immediately find the bounds. 54 liters correct to the nearest liter, same unit, so this liter means unit. To correct it to the nearest unit. 1 to the nearest unit يعني to the nearest 1 divided by 2 half. Upper bound 54.5, lower bound 53.5. upper lower. العربية بتاخد 54 لتر بنزين. ماشي شكرا. Correct 1 decimal place. The car travels 15.8 kilometers on 1 liter of petrol. First, let's find the bounds of the distance. طبعا هنا corrected to 1 decimal place، وتاني بأكد يا جماعة the place value is always given after the word correct. 1 dp is the tenth is 0.1 divided by 2 0.05. Add to find the upper bound, subtract to find the lower bound. فاكس original. I will not use them anymore. يعني ايه الحتة دي؟ Correct 1 decimal place, the car travels 15.8 kilometers on 1 liter of petrol. يعني ايه الحتة دي؟ يعني لتر البنزين هيمشيني 15.8 kilometers. يعني 1 liter of petrol will be enough for the car to travel 15.8 kilometers. Calculate the lower bound for the distance the car will travel on a full tank. طب احنا مفولين العربية هنمشي مسافة قد ايه؟ هو ده المطلوب. طيب في ناس برضو ما بتلقطش الاوبريشنز على طول. طبعا هو هنا قال لي calculate lower bound، فانا I know that this is a lower bound question. I don't know yet what is the operation. الاوبريشن دي addition ولا subtraction ولا multiplication ولا ايه ظروفها؟ cross multiply if you're lost. 1 liter of petrol will travel 15.8 kilometers with the car. طيب if I have 54 liters, how many kilometers? So by cross multiplication, you'll figure out that you simply multiply the petrol by the distance. يبقى this is a multiplication question. يبقى لتر البنزين بيمشيني 15.8 كيلومتر. طب 54 لتر هيمشيني قد ايه؟ How did I know that this is a lower bound question? It says here. How do I know that this is multiplication? By what we did over here. What do I know about multiplication? قلنا multiplication is the nice case. اللي هي the bounds are the same as the question. الbounds زي بعض زي السؤال. يعني احنا قلنا كمان هنعمل petrol times distance. So these two will either be upper or will be lower. طبعا هنا since the question is lower يبقى lower petrol, lower distance. Lower petrol 53 sorry. ما هو يعني ايه lower bound؟ يعني ايه اقل مسافة العربية دي ممكن تمشيها؟ هي دي الفكرة. Lower petrol multiplied by lower distance. صح كده؟ 53.5 times 15.75. So the distance is 842.625. وهنا I don't need to round. You know, this is terminating decimal. تمام. Moving on, more practice questions. لأن أنتوا عارفين يا جماعة إن إحنا دايماً we have to solve all the questions related to this topic in the notes. وبعد كده هنعمل بس مسألتين مهمين بالنسبة لي. هنا بيقول لي Sinead نفس الكلام بقى. Sinead ran 68 meters corrected to the nearest meter. What are the checks that you have to do? First, make sure it's the same unit. Since it says to the nearest meter, يعني to the nearest unit, so the upper is 68.5 and the lower is 67.5. Upper, lower. Her time was 9.8 to the nearest tenth of the second. So I need to find the bounds of the time. Since it says tenth, هي واضحة هي يعني 0.1 divide by 2, 0.05, add, subtract. So the upper time is 9.85 and the lower time is 9.75. And خلاص, I don't use the originals anymore. Calculate the upper bound of the speed. Now this question is nice. Why? Because it says upper bound. طبعا it will always say whether it's upper bound or lower bound. It's nice because of this. It says speed. Okay, now check the units again. Guys, you have to check the units. And sometimes in some annoying questions, the units are different. Is the distance meter? Yes. Is the time seconds? Yes. طبعا we all know the rule of the speed. The rule of the speed is distance over time. So as you can see, this question over here is division. And it says find the upper bound of the speed. Since this question is division, so what do I do بقى? الbounds, are they the same or different? Yes, they're different. One upper, one lower. مين الupper ومين lower? الأولانية زي السؤال. The first quantity is like the question. So the distance is upper and the time is lower. So upper distance, 68.5, divided lower time, 9.75. Let's do the math. 68.5 divided 9.75. And I'll get an answer after rounding to 3 significant figures. I will round here because this is this is the answer that I got on the calculator. أرجوكم يا جماعة بلاش تتعاملوا مع الفيديوهات دي كأنها فيلم سينما. أنا قاعدة وبكتب وبشرح، أنتوا تعملوا نفس الكلام، يجيبوا النوتس وقاعدة رايقة كده وتعملوا لي الكلام ده. فهتبقى 7.03 طبعا meter per second after rounding لأن I decided to round to 3 significant figures. Okay, let's see how the questions بقى differ in the new exams. زمان كانوا بيجيبوا word problems، والله واحيانا برضه بيجيبوا word problems، بس النوع ده من المسائل اللي وانتوا بتحلوا في الباس بيبرز اكيد شفتوا المسائل دي كتير، اللي هي زي دي كده. هنا بعد المسألة دي هنعمل مسألتين بالعدد وخلاص. هنا بقى بيقول لي ايه؟ زي ما انتوا شايفين y is equivalent to this fraction over here, and this fraction has 3 letters, the 42 and the 24 and the 14. Oh, A is kaza, B is kaza, and all of these numbers, they're both all rounded to the second significant figure. So for the last time, how do I find the bounds? Look for the second significant figure. In all of these numbers, the second significant figures is the units. طبعا the units, the value of the units is 1, divide by 2, which is half. Add, subtract, add, subtract, add, subtract, add to find the upper bound. I mean, add this number over here. So for 14 plus half, 24 plus half, 42 plus half, the upper, and then the lower, subtract 0.5 from this. So 41.5, 24 minus half, 23.5, and 14 minus half is 13.5. And then مع السلامة مع السلامة مع السلامة. I don't use these anymore. Calculate the lower bound for y. Now this question, see, this is question number 18, and it's not supposed to be a super easy question. Now, the fraction y has two operations, as you can see. This is a these sort of questions are very important. Again, y has two operations. What are they? It has the division. So this is the first operation. And it has this subtraction over here. It has the division and it has the subtraction. Now let's start by the division. The question here says, find the lower bound of y. Since this is division, as we said, so the bounds are different, one upper and one lower. And the first quantity is the lower and the other is the upper. بما إن المسألة دي division, فقلنا هيبقى واحدة upper وواحدة lower. والأولانية زي السؤال. بصوا بقى. الأولانية زي السؤال. والتانية على بعضها كده كلها is العكس. So if the numerator is lower, then the denominator will be upper. تمام كده؟ أهو lower bound اللي فوق lower واللي تحت كله على بعضه هيبقى upper. تعالوا نعمل اللي فوق. lower bound. تمام. فهناخد طبعا 2 is just a number. The lower of A is 41.5. Now let's look at the denominator. The denominator by itself is another operation. I want the upper bound of B minus C. يعني كأنها مسألة تانية. واللي مش عاجبك خبيه. خبي ده. أنت عايز upper of subtraction. Subtraction واحدة وواحدة. واحدة upper وواحدة lower. مين ال upper؟ دي زي السؤال. ودي اللور. فهي الفكرة كلها في المسألة دي إن هو هنا إيه؟ عايز الفراكشن ده كله يبقى lower bound. division lower يعني اللي فوق lower واللي تحت كله على بعضه upper. اللي تحت ده اعتبرناه مسألة تانية لوحدها. upper bound of subtraction means you will take the upper to have upper bound of subtraction. You take upper of B, lower of C. And these are the frequent ideas that come in exams. So the upper of B, which is 24.5, minus the lower of C. And then I place all of this on the calculator. 2 times 41.5 over 24.5 minus 13.5. هتطلع كلها هنا بيقول لي round to two significant figures. After rounding the two significant figures, the answer is 7.5. So in this question over here, as you can see, we have two operations, not just one. طبعا we have to start with the division لأنه it's the order of operation. فابتدي بالdivision. Since it says lower bound of y فقلنا, and since this question is division يبقى واحدة وواحدة, واحدة upper واحدة lower, وقلنا الأولانية زي السؤال. يعني ده كله هيبقى زي السؤال اللي هو lower, واللي تحت is upper. اللي تحت اعتبرناه مسألة لوحدها عشان هي subtraction, فعملنا upper bound of subtraction. والsubtraction قصته زي قصة ال division اللي هي واحدة وواحدة. طب مين ال upper ومين ال lower؟ قلنا الأولانية زي السؤال. So basically بصوا أخدنا إيه؟ أخدنا lower A, وبعد كده عشان ده يبقى upper أخدنا upper B و lower C. وطبعا دي من الأسئلة دي كتير. هنعمل الأول السؤال ده اللي هو classified part 2 page number 70. classified part 2 page number 70. We're going to do this question together and then we will go to classified part 4. خليني بس اجهز classified part 4 علشان برضو كان في سؤال كده كنت قلت لكم عليه عايزه اعمله على فكره الكريم دي. So let's start actually with classified part 4. Part 4. Part 4. مش شايفه السكرين باينه عندكم طبعا. أتأكد بس إن هي باينة. New share. Yes, the screen is shared. If you can please everyone open your classified part 4. أهي. Classified part 4. هقول لكم page كام. أهي. Page 59. الأول عايزاكم تروحوا للnotes. I want you to go back to the notes and I want you to go back to this question, the crane question, and go back to the notes, to the crane question, and write next to the crane question, look, classified, part 4, page 59, صح? Page 59? Yes, page 59. So in the notes, next to the crane question, I want you to write this down. Look, classified, part 4, page 59. And in class, sorry. And in classified part 4, the notes page كام بقى؟ ايه يا عم؟ مش هيشخبط فيه كده. 46. تيجوا بقى عند المسألة دي تكتبوا جنبها look notes page 46 just to know the different ideas يعني. Look notes page 46 and yes, look classified page 59, look notes page 46. Okay, so let's look at this question over here. Some cases have to be lifted by the crane. أنا برضو أنا الونش أهو. I'm a crane and then I have boxes in front of me and I'm required to lift these boxes. Each of these boxes has a mass of 68 kilograms corrected to 2 significant figures. Let's find where is the second significant figure. The second significant figure is the 8, which is the units. طبعا the question here says find the upper bound only. طبعا units يعني 1 على 2, which is half. To find the upper bound, I add. So this is the upper bound of the box. And again, you don't need to find both upper and lower unless the question requires them both. هنا بقى قال لي ايه في question B. Now look at question B. Question B says a crane can lift safely. Now الكلمة دي قلبت الموازين. A load of 1200. Let's find the bounds again. 1200 corrected to 2 significant figures. Now where is the second significant figure? The second significant figure is 2. And the place value of this 2 is hundreds. So take its value, divide by 2. You must find the bounds. This is not an optional thing. You have to find the bounds. So the upper bound is 1200 plus 50. And the lower bound is 1200 minus 50. So 1150. Safely. Find the greatest number the crane can lift safely in one load. Now, what is the difference between the crane in this question and what is the difference between the crane in the notes? بصوا بقى السواق بتاع النوتس راجل مفتري. قال لك انا هجيب اخر الونش بتاعي ده. قال لي calculate the number of boxes. انت يا عم انا هجيب اخرك. عشان كده هنا اخدنا the maximum weight the crane can lift. Now in question number 4 in the notes, the question did not say safely. So that's why I took the upper of the crane and I did the division normally. While the question in the classified part 4, it says safely. So I cannot take the upper of the crane. السواق بقى بتاع الكلاسيفايد يقول لك لا يا عم والنبي بدل ما يحصل حاجة للونش بتاعي أنا عايز أبقى safe. عايز أبقى ماشي جنب الحيطة. طبعا the question here says find the number of boxes the crane can lift. So it's the same operation. Crane over box. But is it going to be upper bound of division ولا in this question over here it's going to be lower bound? In this question over here it's going to be lower bound. Why is it going to be lower bound? It's going to be lower bound because it says safely. Because it says safely. فبيقول لك الراجل ده قال لك لا يا عم والنبي انا مش عايز الكريم بتاعي يبوظ ولا اي حاجه، انا مش هقرص عليه، انا همشي جنب الحيطه. So in this question I will take the lower of the crane and divide by the upper of the box which is 68.5. يبقى أنا هنا I took lower of crane upper of box بس because the question says safely. فهو زي ما بقول لكم قال لك لا يا عم أنا هقرص عليه ليه؟ بدل ما يبوظ، فأخد أقل وزن يقدر يشيله الكرين ده divided by هنا الإجابة هتطلع 16.788 يعني أخد lower crane على upper box. طبعا هنا مش هنقرص عليه بقى بزيادة، يعني هو الكرين يقدر يشيل 16 بوكس وشوية، قال لك لا برضه يا عم أنا هشيل 16 بس safely علشان يتأكد إن الكرين بتاعه ده ما حصلوش حاجة. أنا بس هتأكد برضو علشان كلمة safely دي، فخلينا نتأكد برضو من الماركينج سكيم، مفيش ما يمنع إنه so as we said sometimes a word can change the question. ده November 2007 3H marking scheme. Let's do it now and check out. Question number كام ده بقى؟ the question 18. Let's see. بالظبط صح 16. 1150 over 68.5. So this is what I was telling you يا جماعة إنه one word changed the question. تمام، اللي هي the word safely غيرت السؤال تماما. It did not change the operation but it changed the question from upper bound into lower bound. That's why I wanted to show you this question. أنا عارفة إن أنتوا خلاص جبتوا آخركم، معلش استحملوني يا أولاد، أنا عشان بس عايزة أجيب بحاول نعمل الأيدياز كلها. The last question is this. This is in your classified part 2, page number 70. Classified part 2, page 70. قال لي هنا إيه بقى؟ إحنا أخدنا ال 3D shapes. قال لي a metal cube has sides cube. طبعا a cube is a prism with 6 faces. All the faces are squares. The length of the edge is 4.5 corrected to the nearest 0.5 centimeter. ايه يا مس ده؟ هو ممكن يغير لي برقم كده؟ ما كانت بتبقى to 1 significant to the 10th to ماليش دعوة، مش عادي. أولاً first you have to check that it's the same units. So here it's the same units. You have to check يا جماعة the units. And then if the place value is given as a number, you take the number as is and you don't panic. And you divide by 2. Let's divide this by 2. 0.5 divide by 2 هتبقى 0.25 and you find the bounds of the edge. طبعا add 0.25 to find the upper bound فهتبقى 4.75 and then subtract 0.25 to find the lower bound فهتبقى 4.25. So this is why I wanted to discuss such a question اللي هو the value after the word nearest is given as a number like this. مفيش أي مشكلة. First, check that the units are the same. If the units are not the same, you have to make them the same. And then, as we said earlier, you take the place value given after the word nearest and you divide by 2. How you take the value, you divide by 2. أيا كانت. تعالوا بقى نشوف. The cube is melted down and the metal is used to make small spheres. ايه بقى المسألة العجيبة دي؟ يعني هو أخذ الكيوب ده وسيحه. أخذ الكيوب ده وسيحه وعمل منه spheres. تمام؟ وعمل منه spheres. يعني ايه الحتة دي؟ يعني the volume of the cube اتسيح. حلو؟ The cube is melted down to make spheres. يبقى أنا عندي دلوقتي المسألة فيها sphere. طيب. Each sphere has a radius of 3 millimeter corrected to the nearest millimeter. So with the sphere, you have to find the bounds as well. طبعا دي same units والكلام ده كله to the nearest millimeter يعني to the nearest unit يعني to the nearest one. So the upper bound and the lower bound, the upper is 3.5 and the lower is 2.5. خلاص. لأن هي مليمتر ومليمتر، ولما يقول لي to the nearest millimeter يعني to the nearest unit. Work out the greatest number. Greatest number يعني إيه؟ يعني upper bound of spheres that could be made from the metal. الكيوب ده اتسيح وعملنا منه كور صغيرة. عملنا منه كام كورة؟ تمام؟ يبقى volume of cube over volume of sphere يديني عدد السفيرز اللي اتعملت. تمام؟ طبعا دي ما تعتبرش مسألة سهلة حتى زي ما انتم شايفين this is question 20. So first you find the bounds as we did over here and then you will have to figure out what is the operation. The operation here is division. Division of what? طبعا since it says greatest number so this is an upper bound question. Type upper bound of which operation? Subtraction, division, multiplication, what? قال لي الكيوب ده اتسيح وعملنا منه كور صغيرة. يبقى ايه؟ volume cube على volume cube over volume sphere will give me the number of little spheres I can get. So now the question is division. And as we said so many times in division, the bounds are different. One upper, one lower. Which is upper, which is lower? الأولانية زي السؤال. So upper bound of cube divided by lower bound of sphere. طبعا the volume of the cube is side times side times side. But which side do I take? The upper bound. So 4.75 times 4.75 times 4.75 أو ممكن أكتبها side power 3 على طول. Over يبقى upper bound of volume of cube على lower bound of volume of sphere. And if you remember when we discussed spheres in school, قلنا the volume of the sphere is 4 over 3 pi r3. طبعا 4 over 3 will be kept as it is, the pi will be kept as it is. طبعا which radius will I take? I will take the lower radius. 2.5 power 3. And then لأن احنا قلنا فوق upper وتحت lower. تمام؟ فأخدت الupper بتاع السايد بتاع الكيوب على اللور بتاع السفير. طبعا on the calculator, do it on the calculator. 4.75 power 3 over 4 over 3 times shift pi times 2.5 power 3 on the calculator. عملت ايه؟ عمل لي error. sorry, shift pi. ايوه كده صح. هتطلع كام دي يا جماعه هنا؟ شوفوا بقى انا بقى ذات نفسي اتلخبطت. طلع بصوا طلعت معايا كام؟ طلعت معايا عشان بقول لكم بقى ايه، طلعت معايا 1.6. بس انا عماله اقول لكم من الصبح same units same units same units. انا شخصيا بقى ما خدتش بالي من حاجه مهمه جدا. ما خدتش بالي من ايه؟ ما خدتش بالي انه دي سنتيمتر ودي مليمتر. لازم دول كمان يبقوا same units. شوف انا عماله اقول لكم من اول المساله من اول الدرس make sure it's same units make sure it's same units make sure it's same units. وانا شخصيا ما خدتش بالي من الحته بتاعه انه الكيوب اليونت بتاعته سنتيمتر والسفير اليونت بتاعته كام؟ مليمتر. فانا بقى هعمل ايه؟ I will change اليونت بتاعه طبعا من متر، خلينا نعملها كده لسنتيمتر. مش متر، مليمتر، سوري. نعملها العكس عشان ما نتلخبطش. من سنتيمتر لمليمتر. من سنتيمتر لمليمتر times 10. فمن من مليمتر لسنتيمتر divide by 10. فانا هحول دي لسنتي. I'll change this to centimeters. So I divide it by 10 عشان تبقى مليمتر. شفتوا بقى انا ما خدتش بالي. يبقى هنا تاني الكيوب والسفير، الكيوب سنتيمتر والسفير ملي، فلازم اخليهم زي بعض. فانا غيرت السفير، ممكن اغير التاني مش هتفرق يعني. تمام، هغير السفير 2.5 مليمتر How do I change to centimeter? Divide by 10. فهتبقى 0.25. عشان كده السؤال ده عليه 3 درجات وعلشان كده السؤال ده question number 20. Now I'll place it on the calculator بقى again. 0.25. شفتوا بقى السؤال ده مهم ليه؟ هتطلع 1637.46 حاجات كتيرة كده. طبعا هنا I will round to the nearest unit لأنه مش هينفع أعمل 1637 سفير وحتة، فهعمل 1637 spheres. So again, let me summarize. خلاص, this is the last question. Let me summarize this question again كده real quick. I am given a cube, and this cube is melted down to make small spheres. To find the number of spheres, I had to find the volume of the cube, and I had to find the volume of the sphere. طبعا, I found the bounds first, as we explained. These are same units, so I found the bounds immediately. And for the sphere, these are same units, so I found the bounds of the sphere and I found the bounds of the cube. And then, since the question here says it's the greatest number, so this is upper bound of what operation? Division. Because if I divide the volume of the cube by the volume of the sphere, I should get the number of little spheres that I can make. What was the trick that I did not notice myself in this question? The trick was the different units. أنا ما خدتش بالي فعلا. The different units between the sphere and the cube. So these must be the same units. So because I used the edge of the cube in centimeter, I had to change the radius of the sphere into centimeter as well. And how do I change from millimeter to centimeter? I divide it by 10. And then since the question says greater number, so it's upper bound. Since this is division, so as we said earlier, one upper, one lower, واللي فوق هو اللي upper واللي تحت lower. upper cube على lower sphere. ناخد بالنا من الحتة دي بتاعت المليمتر. طبعا I got this non-terminating decimal. I rounded to the nearest unit to find the number of spheres that we can make from this cube. تمام? I hope you all understood. طبعا your homework is going to be classified part 2. Classified part 2, bounds, or what we call limits of accuracy. If you wish to practice more in classified part 1, this is totally up to you. Please watch this video carefully, pause, ما تسرحوش, try as much as you can to just pretend that we are in class. Okay, thank you so much, and I will send you this video as soon as it's ready. Yeah, see you all in school. You have a week to 10 days to finish this video, please. Thank you. Bye.